Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris, and it is time to talk about the partial solar eclipse with you. This is happening on September 21st. It is happening at the final degree of Virgo, so 29 degrees and 5 minutes of Virgo. I'm trying to be outside with you to get some earth energy. Hopefully it's not too windy. How are you doing? How is your eclipse portaling going? Been talking to lots of folks, and lots of folks are in it. And that makes sense with the energy that we are talking about. There is a massive clearing going on, and I'm recording this. We're still about 9 days out from the eclipse as I'm making this. I do just want to kind of weave a narrative, name the core aspects. That said, I think it is important to mention that it's the energy is building up to this eclipse, and then it's also in the few days after, just because of how the aspects are working. So, I mean, we have all the outer planets talking to our eclipse. So this is just a very poignant time, and it really is potentially an opportunity, a calling, a little push from universe into new stories, new chapters, restorying, literally letting our attachment to the realities that we've been in go. And the way eclipse seasons work is that they kind of bring us into 6-month cycles, roughly. That said, the energy of this particular eclipse, yes, it's part of the 6-month cycle, but it's also weaving through themes because it's working with the outer planets that are massive, that are about the new reality that is birthing, that is coming with Saturn, and represented especially in Saturn and Neptune in 2026. So let's talk about some of these aspects, shall we? We have got the sun and the moon together at the final degree of Virgo. Now that right there is very significant. We had a new moon, our last new moon was at 0 degrees of Virgo. We've moved through our Pisces lunar eclipse. We are coming into this new moon partial solar eclipse, which is happening with 2 Virgo new moons in a row at the final degree. So it really is just in this small 6-week period of time, there is kind of this symbolic being taken on a journey through the whole sign of Virgo. Remembering that that's where our south node is. And it is helping us to clear. And especially as we come into this new moon, this solar eclipse, reset. We began at 0 degrees, we finish at 29 degrees, we enter into new cycles. Now that final degree of Virgo, the final degree of any sign, is a heightened energy, and it represents many different manifestations of that sign. On the one hand, sometimes it's thought of as that kind of mastery degree because it's the culminating degree. I like to work with the word culminating rather than mastery. Most of us, there's still more layers for whatever we think we're mastering. And, you know, it's culminating. It is at this moment in our life, it's how that 29th degree of Virgo wisdom can be embodied. Now, at the same time, it's getting ready to become Libra energy. That Libra energy is already drifting through. And that's why the 29th degree is also a death degree. It is the culmination. It is true wisdom comes as we mature. And that is part of the paradox of this life journey, is that it's as we age that we truly begin to embody the wisdom. Right? I say this all the time. Astrology, not youth-centric, not part of Hollywood, Western culture, just saying everything's better when it's younger. Astrology does not work like that. Astrology sets up this, spectrum of life transits that we have, and the transits, like our second Saturn return, our Chiron return, these are transits. It really begins when we have our Pluto square Pluto when we're in our usually around 40, late 30s, early 40s. Then we have a series of transits that happens at midlife moving on, and it is as we mature that is when, especially from the evolutionary perspective, we begin embodying our soul path in a new way. And the final degree kind of takes us into that wisdom, but it's also the death degree. That energy is about to shift into Libra. And so there is this maturity, and we have a new moon at that degree. So there is also the maturity that comes with this eclipse about what you have been letting go, about what has been letting go of you, about how your story at this moment in your life is being restored. With Virgo, that especially can be how we now are moving into setting new patterns, new habits of your daily life, of your mind-body connection that are going to carry you forth here for the next 6 months, okay? Here, moving forward, having had a massive clearing. What does your body, psyche need moving forward in order to create the structures in your life that help you to flow with your spirituality, that help you to flow with the wilds of Pisces, which is where the North Node is, which is what Virgo is always working to create structures. Virgo is not working to create structures so that it can ultimately be the most organized person or the best researcher or this. Archetypally, Virgo's working to create structures so that divine energy has a system to flow into in this earthly plane. That is Virgo's archetypal job. And it is here. We've just been through a massive Virgo clearing. We come into this partial solar eclipse so that we can be sent forward, hopefully bringing new habits, especially habits that are going to allow us to become the people we're becoming in the new reality that's birthing. And this is where this is not just about an exercise routine. It is about you becoming a new version of yourself. And that is because this new moon, this partial solar eclipse, is opposite Saturn and Neptune. And it is trine Uranus and Sedna. And it is trine Pluto. It is talking to all the outer planets. Saturn has just entered retrograde into Pisces. It's at 28 degrees. It's going to move back to 25 degrees. So Saturn is doing a massive clearing of those final 5 degrees of Pisces in your life psyche chart. And that's talking to setting these intentions as parts of yourself are being eclipsed and you're moving forward. You're moving forward in a reality that is still closing out and being birthed. Okay, so that's why it's important to understand that whatever we're kind of setting intentions for, wherever we're moving into, it is in transit. It is in process. Our lives, our communities, what is being birthed is very much in process. And so this is something to carry us through the final stages. Because then we hit February 2026 when Saturn and Neptune finally have their conjunction. And then we also are talking about our next eclipse season. Okay, but Saturn and Pisces and Neptune and Aries, both retrograde, are opposite this new moon at the final degree of Virgo. So there is also something about your own process of Saturn runs so deep here. And here we are talking about 30-year cycles with Saturn. We're also talking about cycles that we can't name in terms of time because it is a new paradigm being birthed. And that's because of its conjunction with Neptune and the way they're talking with Uranus and Sedna and also Pluto. So there's definitely something going on here that is bigger than what any of us can understand. Bigger than whatever we have our sights set on for our life or relationship or career or whatever it is that's occupying a lot of energy right now. There is layers going on here that are about so much more than that. They are about this rebirthing moment for humanity. And yet this is so personal. And so whatever you're journeying with in the construction of literally a rebirthing of a new identity with Saturn and Neptune, this new moon wants to set in with the potential for us to access some deep, deep embodied wisdom, habits, and systems in our own life that are going to support us as Saturn continues that massive clearing out. Neptune is going to come back into Pisces. There's a flushing that needs to happen, and it is absolutely driven by spirit. And that Pisces area is our intuition. It is how we speak with spirit. It is also, Saturn is at the final degrees of Pisces. That is also grief. That is death. That is the heavy, heavy end of the spectrum that, to be honest, Western culture doesn't really do the best job talking about, giving us narratives for how to, in an embodied way, journey through that. Thankfully, the archetypes do. And so you just, really want to just be honest with what's coming up and surfing the waves and setting intentions for whatever emerges from the body, psyche. This is not about going forward with the solid plan. This is about listening to intuition and ultimately listening to the wisdom of your body. It is the 29th degree of Virgo. It's the wisdom of your body, especially the wisdom that's emerging now as you've journeyed through this very liminal time. This time when life might not really be making sense, when there might be exhaustion, and just allowing that something is still being cleared. Now, so we've got Saturn, who's in the process of clearing out old structures of our life to create a new sense of structures for our identity. And then we've also got Neptune there. Neptune is at 0 degrees 48 minutes of Aries. So we also have that very charged, birthing, primal flame of other dimensions coming through into your sacred desire, into the 29th degree new moon. Here, there might be interests, there might be pathways, there might be relationships, there might be journeys that you're about to set on that your younger self just couldn't even have fathomed, wasn't ready for. Maybe you had an inkling of it at some point, but reality was not supporting the dream. There are new dreams being birthed. So you also can spend time. Neptune is talking to this new moon. What's your new dream? It might be years off. It doesn't matter. This is Neptune with Saturn. We're reconstructing time. Let go of the linear plan. Let go of thinking you have to accomplish something in a certain amount of time by a certain age. Those are not the rules that Neptune and Saturn moving across the threshold of Aries and Pisces work with. And that can be hard for Virgo to understand. So Virgo also needs to understand that it's setting a system within your own body mind for a whole new reality. And the way that you worked before probably not going to work here. And that also means there might be a grieving process of how your life worked before, and this could go in, it depends on your chart, it could be relationships, it could be vocation, it could be so many aspects of our lives, but there might be something that you're also grieving alongside and allowing that, okay? And that's not it, because it's also trining Sedna and Uranus, who are at the first degree, they're retrograde at the first degree of Gemini, and it's trining Pluto, who's retrograde at the first degree of Aquarius. And so those are trines, but they're trines to some pretty big transformative awakening energy. That Uranus is preparing to go back into Taurus in November. We are on a big journey with that Uranus. It is awakening. Literally, Uranus in Gemini has such an incredible ability to awaken our our consciousness in this life to other realms and to stream that in, it also can go in way too many directions at once, and we can be way over stimulated with news and media and information. But that Uranus is retrograde. We are reintegrating after a taste of Uranus in Gemini to prepare to go back to our last taste of radical authenticity, which is what Uranus in Taurus, the embodiment of radical authenticity that we need in order to move forward with this kind of awakening in Gemini. And that energy is also part of this new moon. It's part of the new reality, new understandings, new communities, new ideas, literally new. Could not have fathomed them, could not have imagined them before. And our soul journey of awakening in Aquarius, which is always about the most authentic self coming through in this plane. These are big energies. And so our new moon is at that final degree of Virgo. So that means then that as the moon's going to move very quickly, and it's going to have those exact trines, and it's going to have an exact opposition with Neptune. But the sun is then on the 22nd going to enter Libra, and then that sun is going to start coming into its exact conversation in the trine. So we have energy the days leading up to, because the day before the eclipse is when we're going to have the exact opposition with Saturn and the sun. So there's also, a lot of energy leading up to this eclipse, and then the energy moving out of it. Right? Just like moving out of that lunar eclipse, we have been working with all the sun and the Mercury and the South Node conjunctions, and it has been, I don't know about you, but I was exhausted during that. It's been like an active draining. There's been lots clearing, lots coming up, lots of allowing, lots of needing to allow. And so then now the trines are actually going to be really spirited, and yet we're still talking about Pluto. We're talking about Sedna. We're talking about Uranus, right? And I didn't weave in Sedna there. This is ultimately, she's part of why the new reality is so new. Part of what we couldn't fathom before. And she is ultimately also about how we are coming into these are not the patriarchal models. These are not the realities of power over. These are a reclaiming and a rebirthing and a writing new myths. And Sedna brings that to us, as does Pluto in Aquarius, as does Uranus in Gemini. And so all of that is channeling into this new moon. It is a lot. And it's part of the eclipse. Eclipse is always wild card energy. It brings us into unexpected plot twists. And, I always say, as much as we weave these narratives, these are to support, never to predict. I do not work with astrology as a practice of prediction. I feel pretty strongly that is coming out of a more patriarchal practice with astrology, because ultimately there is a seeking to control versus a co-creative embodiment with the archetypes. They are totally different frameworks, and they lead to totally different types of lives and identities. And co-creative embodiment is just a luscious dance, and it's beauty that cannot be contained and is not good or bad or pretty or this. It just is. And we are talking about energy that just is. We are talking about all the outer planets talking to us so personally. It's a new moon. Opposite Saturn and Neptune, trine, Sedna, Uranus, and Pluto. It's a lot. And so, of course, we are also talking about Virgo. You want to lean into grounding the body. You want to lean into the elements, which I really hope are not too windy. I really hope this has been okay, and I'm not going to have to redo this. If you're watching it, I decided it was good enough. And good enough. That's an important word, especially if we have any Virgo perfectionists there. Is it good enough? It does not need to be perfect. Life does not need to be perfect. You do not need to be perfect. When Virgo is trying to do something that matches an ideal of how it's imagined it could be, it usually sets itself up to fail. Virgo always actually really needs to be good enough, because when we're good enough, we have enough flexibility for Pisces to flow in more cosmic energy and shift what we need shift our perspective, shift our system, shift our body mind, shift our habits. And we are in energy that is still very much shifting and creating and working with Pisces. So allow it to be good enough. And also just noting that Mercury is also conjunct this solar eclipse. It was also conjunct our lunar eclipse. In this time around, Mercury has already had its conjunction with the sun. So now Mercury is ahead in Libra at 5 degrees. This is lovely for receiving messages, insights, journal with the new moon, go for coffee with your friend that you can chat about your astrology and your soul journey with. It is lovely to work with that. And there really may be some insights coming in there. Also, on that note, another ruler who we have, we're getting into more complex layers here. Chiron is also, in some practices, in my practice, a co-ruler of Virgo. And Chiron is retrograde in Aries at 26 degrees. And Chiron, leading up to the eclipse, has been opposite Mars. And for the actual eclipse, Mars is at the 29th degree of Libra. This is some strong energy, especially in the days leading up to the eclipse, as that Mars was coming into the exact opposition with Chiron. That can be tender. That can be one-on-one dynamics getting triggered. If there is a trigger coming in a one-on-one relationship, you really want to step back and see where the healing path is for yourself. You do not want to react, especially with Chiron retrograde. There is something about healing to see. Also, this could be one-on-one relationships that are helping you to heal. It doesn't always have to be the intense trigger, but with Mars there, that can happen. But that's another layer, because whatever's coming up is directly related through Chiron to this new moon. And so you could be just really witnessing your own, that Chiron is about healing our primal sense of self. End point. That's it. Just healing the primal sense of self. And with Mars and Libra, that is relationships that are kind of one-on-one dynamics that are pulling up threads for us to witness healing and growth. So just knowing that's another layer. There is the relational dynamic happening as we're in this new moon, which is very strong, felt very personally, deep in the body. If you have been someone that has been journeying alongside exhaustion, grief, and that is here for this eclipse, you really want to take care of yourself. You really want to nurture the body, help it release, and just see what's present as you journey through. And I will be back. I will see you soon. Lots of love. Bye-bye.